Howdy y'all. It's been a while since I've done an update on the Bronco. I posted a video the other day, but it was kind of some dated material. It was a few things that I had done to it, but I've done a whole bunch more since. The list of things that this Bronco needs is staggering. When I got it, I thought it was going to be just a few things, and the more things I found, the more things I found. And the more things I fixed, the more things I found. So I'm going to give you a quick walk around of where I'm at. If you go back and watch the very first video on YouTube and Bullnose Zach channel, you'll see when I just got this thing and all I had done was delivered it to my house. That's all I did. I did pull the driveline out so that I could move it around. But since then, I've done quite a bit to it. The first noticeable thing is the bigger tires. I got some 35s. They're old as the hills, but they are bigger and they were super cheap. They came with the wheels. I just traded a guy straight across almost. So I got some better wheels I do need to polish, some bigger tires. The offset on this thing is way better. It was super narrow. This just fits. It could go a little bigger. I could go 36s, maybe even 37s, because as you can see, I still got lots of room in the front to turn. Only thing I'm going to run into is maybe hitting right here just a little bit, but 6-inch lift, there's plenty of room. The other thing, big thing that I've done is I went through the interior and fastened all this stuff, fixed a few things that were loose, switched the bezel out to an XLT bezel instead of the black custom one, which I do still have if I want to switch it back, but I like the look of this better. I cleaned it really good, vacuumed it out, sat in a barn for a couple of years so it was super dirty. Put a center console in it out of the parts Bronco, changed the steering column to a tilt column, fixed the shifter. It had so much slack in it that it literally was like 3 inches up and down before you could actually shift the thing. So got that fixed up. The wiring was a huge mess. I'm not done with it, but it charges, it starts consistently, the windows work, the heater fan works, the rear window works halfway. It'll roll down inside, it won't roll back up inside. You got to get out, use the key, because it's a separate circuit, and you can roll it up in the back. So I just have to take this switch apart in here and figure out where that ground is. I fixed the four-wheel drive linkage a little bit, made it to where it doesn't rattle nearly as much. Adjusted the seats. They were smashed into the floor really bad. They're still broke down a little bit, but they're not bent anymore. I think somebody was doing some major off-roading, and I think they were a big old boy, because those things were smashed down so bad. I took a 2x4 and a hammer and hit the floorboard, dented it back up to where you could actually see over the steering wheel. Let's see. Look inside the engine compartment. It really hasn't changed that much, but I did get it tuned up. Some new spark plugs. Haven't done any wires yet, but it's just a 351 Windsor. I think it's had a little bit of work done to it, maybe a cam or something, because it does idle pretty good. It does have a little bit more than just your normal 351 power. It's not a huge torque horse or power plant, but it gets the job done and it sounds good. And then of course the chrome valve covers always means more horsepower. Everybody knows that. It does have a performer intake on it, Edelbrock carburetor that needs rebuilt really bad. It is so inconsistent. Sometimes it idles fine, sometimes it doesn't want to idle, sometimes it idles way too high, and it's got a little bit of a stumble every once in a while, so it just needs to be tore down and rebuilt. I got the rebuild kit, I just haven't done that yet. Change this out. It's not the correct one for the radiator. This is a tiny radiator, but it seems to keep it cool so far. The shroud helps a little bit. It was all broken and everything, and at least having a shroud on it helps to direct the air where it needs to go. Of course, it's winter, so it's hard to tell, but it doesn't overheat. I had to fix, this has an aftermarket air conditioning system in it that doesn't work, and the heat fan had been disconnected because the switch had fallen apart. So I put the switch back together, hooked that back up so the heater works, which is super important right now. One of the other things that I've done up here is changed out a bezel that was broken, changed the grill out to one that wasn't nearly as, that's funny. I was pushing the parts Bronco around and got a little paint transfer on there, couldn't break it. But this is a much better shape than the other one was. The emblem is just blacked out instead of being all corroded and everything. Straightened the bumper a little bit. It was a little bit tweaked. Been working on the alignment on it. It still needs some work. The alignment's okay. It's just got a lot of slop in the steering. The steering box is, I think, a little bit wore out. I've got another one I'm going to put on it eventually, but I've been kind of tightening this one up a little bit every once in a while to see if I can get it better. Other than that, I did put some new shocks on the back. I did a video on that. I did some new weather stripping here, which has made a huge difference. Downside is that these old electric window motors are just about done, and it's really, really slow to roll up, but it seals really good, so you can actually drive this thing down the highway and hear yourself think, which is nice. I did switch out the spare tire. Got a 33 on there, which I didn't want to put a 35 on because it's just way too big back here. Got a new cover for it. Switched out the bracket, so it shuts a little bit better. The other one was a little bit wore out, and it was also really rusty. So I took one off a parts Bronco that it had a lot of nice paint on it, and anyways, it shuts a lot better. Doesn't rattle so much. This was smashed. It had a huge crease in it right here, so I took it off and I put a good one on there. Better anyways. It still needs some paint touch up, needs a new emblem, but it looks a lot better than it did. I also put the straps on the door, or on the tailgate. And that's why that was smashed, is because it didn't have any straps on it. It just came down and hit the bumper, and it's aluminum. It's not that strong. So other than that, the only things I can think of that I've taken care of, I'm sure I'm forgetting everything. I did switch the third member in the rear end because the crush yoke was bad, and so the yoke was just super loose, and it was rattling around, and so I rebuilt the rear drive line, put all new U-joints in it, changed the third member out with ones I had, one in the parts Bronco. It's a limited slip, but of course the clutches are wore out, so it doesn't work that good. I also rehung a lot of the exhaust that was ripped off. And the reason it was ripped off is because the motor mount had broken, and the whole engine torqued over at some point before I had it and ripped all the exhaust, so it was all hanging down. So I rehung some of those. It's not done yet, but I rehung some of those, and then of course replaced the motor mount, which was a huge pain in the butt. I didn't video any of it, and I should have. If you order the cheapest one you can find on Amazon, it won't fit. And you got to go in and you got to manipulate a few things and drill some hole out and everything to get them to fit, because they are basically just close enough. Send it to them. So that was a pain in the butt. But I got it done, got the engine tied back down so you can rump on this thing and it doesn't rip anything else apart. Other than that, I haven't touched any brakes. I haven't touched any of the bearings. I do have some new ball joints for I believe it's the driver's side here. They're shot. What's funny is that it doesn't tilt out at all, so somebody has obviously changed the camber post the ball joints being bad. So that means as soon as I change the ball joints, I'm going to have to redo all the camber, which is fine because I need to have the thing aligned anyways. So that'll be another video, changing the ball joints in this thing. I'm sure there's a million ball joint changing videos, but hey, why not? So that's the walk around on how we're doing on this Bronco. If you don't know, it's an 85. It's got a 6-inch lift, and it's overall in pretty good shape. It's been pretty thrashed on. I've noticed a few things, such as the seat being smashed down into the floor. Another thing I've noticed is that the frame has been cracked in a couple places and welded back together on a farm, I'm thinking somewhere. So a friend and I got in and welded it back together in a few places, put some extra plating on it. I still need to do a little bit more if I want it to actually be tough enough to go off-road a whole lot, but it's good enough for now. It's held together, it's not moving around. The frame rails were going like this every time you'd steer it, which didn't help with the handling problems, but it's better now. And you know, if I absolutely needed to, I got a parts Bronco right over there that's got a decent frame that I could probably cut the front corner out of and, you know, box into this thing. But I'm not that interested in doing that. I don't care about this Bronco nearly as much as I care about a couple of other rigs that I have. So it's kind of the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to replacing frame parts. Anyways, that's it for this. Be sure and follow, be sure and subscribe. I've also got an Instagram that's called Bullnose Zach. And I also have a Facebook called Bullnose Zach. And it's kind of just revolves around this truck and then the other two trucks that I have that I'm always working on, because as you know, a 35 or 40-year-old vehicle, it just is going to need to be worked on. And that's kind of just what I do. So see you guys next time. Laters.